Because I think by its very nature, this alpha mindset, it commoditizes women.
No matter if everybody focuses on self-improvement, that doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day, one person is going to be making the decisions in your group, and the rest are going to follow that person.
Their idea of alpha behavior is apparently like anonymously going on the internet and calling people names.
Totally.
Like, what the fuck is up with that?
The irony is not lost. You're listening to the Phallacies Podcast, Episode 2, Alphas, Betas, Sigmas, oh my. Do hierarchies serve or stunt men?
Fallacies, 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 fallacies.
Welcome to the Phallacies Podcast, Episode 2. We're here to challenge and deconstruct ideas, prejudices, misconceptions, aka fallacies, about what it means to be a man.
That's right. And the quote of our show, I'm going to be saying it every single time. Often it is only after immense intellectual effort, which may have continued over centuries, that humanity at last succeeds in achieving knowledge of a concept in its pure form by stripping off the irrelevant accretions which veil it from the eye of the mind. Gottlob Frege. That's what we're doing here. We're taking the beliefs that dominate the discourse about what it is to be a man and manhood, and we are subjecting that to rigorous logical examination. Stripping away the accretions, the ego, the tribalism, the emotional baggage, the lazy thinking that keeps us stuck on repeat. We call this process the ring. If you want to have loud opinions, that's fine, but get in the ring. And they better stand up to a basic line of questioning. Otherwise,
Okay, I get it. So like boxing ring, gloves are off. Let's go. We're going to duke it out.
ding, ding. Yep.
Okay. All right. So today's episode is brought to you by the fallacy.
Do it random.
Slippery slope. Asserting that if we allow A to happen, then Z will consequentially happen too. Therefore, A should not happen. Example. Colin asserts that if we allow children to play video games, then the next thing you know, we'll be living in a post-apocalyptic zombie wasteland with no money for guardrails to protect people from slippery slopes. Okay, the slippery slope fallacy. Let's look out for that one today.
All right. Okay.
All right, Dash, so what are we talking about today?
For episode 2, our topic is going to be talking all about the alpha-beta framework and whether it serves men in conversations or whether it does more harm than good. So for all the alpha, beta, gamma, sigma sluts out there, this one is for you.
Okay, so in this corner, we have Dash, who is steel manning, representing the conservative traditional idea that yes, hierarchical designations such as alpha, beta, sigma, etc., do serve us, do have value in the conversation about manhood.
That's right. And in this corner, steel manning for the progressive take, arguing that the alpha-beta framework does more harm than good to men and the dialogue that we are trying to have as men, is Charlie.
Thank you.
That's right.
Well, without further ado, ding, 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 let's get in the ring. Start out with a little toast
All right.
to our man,
Gottlob.
Gottlob.
Here's to you.
Here's to you.
You can't make that face. Well, I guess you're steel manning the progressive side, so you got to make that face.
Yeah. All right. Well, tradition. We always start with tradition.
Tradition. Oh, yeah, we do. Okay. The alpha-beta framework serves men and serves these competitions because, look, you can pretend that hierarchies don't exist, but that doesn't make them go away. Every workplace, every social group, every species that forms as groups has hierarchies. So denying this is not some enlightened thing. It's just refusing to see reality. The alpha-beta framework isn't about ego. It's not about insecurity. It's about honest self-assessment. It's about looking at yourself and asking, am I the guy people naturally follow, or am I the guy who follows? Do I command respect, or am I the one who is seeking others' approval? These aren't value judgments. These are observations about how you show up in the world. And yeah, Also, women respond to status, confidence, and leadership. That's not toxic, that's biology. You can call it whatever you want, but pretending that these patterns don't exist because you don't like it, because you don't like the terminology, that's just sticking your head in the sand. The framework gives men something that they desperately need, which is clarity. A roadmap, concrete traits that they can try to develop instead of just vague advice about just be yourself. If that offends you, well, then maybe you're uncomfortable with where you currently sit in the rankings. And that discomfort, that's exactly what you should be feeling because it will motivate you to change.
Okay. So just to pull a few points out from what you said, I guess kind of the first thing I heard was that hierarchies are natural and understanding your place in the hierarchy helps you improve. Mm-hmm. All right. So even if dominance hierarchies do exist in some species, why would that mean that we as humans, civilized people, should organize our lives around them? We're also biologically predisposed to things like tribalism and violence. Should we embrace those too?
Well, I think that tribalism and violence have a place to a certain extent. Okay. But I'm not saying that we should embrace every biological tendency here. I'm just saying ignoring hardwired patterns doesn't make them go away. So understanding them will help us navigate reality as it is, not as we wish to see it.
All right. Well, what are the hardwired patterns associated with being an alpha or a beta?
As it's seen across multiple species in ecology, the species who form into groups, there are traits that get taken on for the one who becomes the leader of a pack, of a group. It could be strength, it could be cunning, it could be leadership, whatever it is, we see it across. And it would be silly to think that we are not also, at some level in our physiology, our biology, also susceptible to those same things, in recognizing the traits that makes someone a leader in the groups.
Aren't those traits often toxic? Like, aren't they violent sometimes? Aren't they exploitative? Aren't they things that really don't serve our society or even, I mean, if we're extrapolating animal behavior onto human society, a lot of times that alpha leader is just the one who's willing to kill all these competing males. Is that really something that we want in society?
Literally, no. But as an analogy, yes. I think it functions very well to help us understand the ways that we can compete and win and lead and gain resources in society. To understand that whatever that dynamic might be where you are trying to win, there are a few set traits that will set you up best to win.
So winning is an essential part of being a man.
I think it's unrelated to being a man, but I think winning, and for those who care about it, the alpha beta framework is helpful.
Okay. All right. If understanding your place helps you improve, why is the framework so important, or why is it so focused on ranking? So comparison to other people. You know, we've all heard the phrase comparison is the thief of joy. Like, shouldn't self-improvement just be based upon yourself, not in comparison to others?
Well, you can do both. You can improve within yourself, but you also need to have an understanding of where others stand, because it is a competition, which is relational. It's not something that you're doing by yourself. To win the game, you have to know where the others are, and you need to do better than them.
How does it serve us to have these metrics all be competitive? Doesn't it serve us better to have it happen within the context of self-improvement only? Because not everyone's created evenly, right? We have different talents, different abilities, different socioeconomic status. So how does it serve us more to have comparison be the key metric versus just self-improvement?
Because this is a dog-eat-dog world. It is a competition-based existence. Most of the world is living in relative poverty, while only a few have resources at the top. So it is a competition, and it is relational. And it is about dominance and submissive dynamics in groups, which are going to exist no matter what. No matter if everybody focuses on self-improvement, that doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day, one person is going to be making the decisions in your group, and the rest are going to follow that person.
That may be true, but isn't it also true that you can only do the best you can do? So how does it help us to have other people as mileposts to compare?
Because we are inspired by other people. We see how things can be done. We see how we can do better than that. It's like the Olympics, where nobody had run faster than the 5-minute mile for years, or for all, it had never been broken. And then as soon as the 5-minute mile was broken, the next Olympics, it was something like 9 people passed the 5-minute mile. As soon as they saw that one person beat it, boom, it unlocked in their minds where they needed to be to truly compete.
So Roger Bannister was an alpha and everyone else was a cuck.
There you go.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Was it about Roger Bannister, though, or was it about the timing? Was it about that, did Neil Armstrong want to get on the moon because somebody else beat him there, or because he wanted to be the first, or did he want just to do it because it hadn't been done before? So it was that threshold of achieving something great. Why did it have to be done in competition with somebody else?
Well, it was done in competition with someone else. It was a space race that was happening amongst all the major world powers at the time. So it was a competition. And a lot of that competition, and you really could make an argument that our success in that competition was because we were racing against the Russians and the Chinese. But had that competition not been there, who knows if the motivation and kind of the morale and the momentum that our country had to get to the moon first would have been there.
Yeah, that was a horrible point that you just made.
Keep laughing about baby.
Okay. Well, anyway, maybe you can edit that one out. Let's move on to your second point.
Okay.
The framework gives men a clear roadmap for self-improvement. Mm-hmm. Okay? So doesn't this roadmap assume that there's only one right way to be a man? What if the traits labeled alpha, aggressive, confidence, dominance, whatever, aren't actually what makes someone effective or fulfilled at all?
I'm sure that somebody can have a different standard for what makes them fulfilled or effective, but the alpha beta framework is about giving people the best tool, or to give you the best odds of achieving some pretty obvious successes, whether that be finding a mate, whether that be money, whether that be strength and dominance and endurance, whatever that might be. This framework is about setting you up. It's about betting on the best horse.
Okay. You mentioned in your opening statement how being an alpha is, what did you say? You said it's about honest self-assessment. You said, do I command respect or do I seek approval? Isn't seeking the label alpha just seeking approval? Isn't it just, if you can only see yourself through the lens of how other people see you in competition, isn't that actually insecurity?
If anybody's trying to chase the alpha label simply for how it will help them be perceived, they've got it wrong. What matters, obviously, is the traits that lie behind that. So I agree that if people are simply trying to become an alpha just for that approval, they are themselves betas, because what matters is just the confidence, the status, and the leadership.
And you can't possibly have confidence, status, and leadership without alpha, beta, and sigma?
Of course you can.
Well, then what's the point of the framework?
Because the same reason you have a framework with anything. It helps make a more complex concept more accessible to people who are trying to learn. There are a lot of young men out there who don't know how to get women, who don't know how to succeed. They know they want it, but they don't know how to do it. And having a competitive motivator will help them do it.
Okay. And
Seeing people in society get labeled as alphas or betas gives them examples of what to do or what not to do.
more than just seeing people in society who are happy and successful? Why can't people be happy and successful without being labeled alpha and beta or sigma?
Because labeling a person as a beta helps people identify what not to do.
So being a beta is inherently bad and wrong.
It's not bad and wrong, but it's just it's somebody who didn't have the drive or didn't have the desire to win, to be dominant, to gather the resources better than the person next to them. And if that's not your goal, that's fine. You can live your life as a beta. There's plenty of them.
How many of the people, realistically, do you think, who are caught up in this conversation about alpha, beta, sigma, are actually concerned with self-improvement rather than just projecting their own insecurities and ideas onto others?
There's no way of knowing that. Of course, there are going to be people who abuse it and peacock around only caring about the labels and the classification rather than the actual traits and what it takes to be a man of high value. But the principles still stand.
Is part of being an alpha proclaiming that you're an alpha?
It can be. It's a confidence, leadership, and status. And alpha, beta are, an extension of status.
If you have to say you're an alpha, are you really an alpha?
If you have to say you're an alpha, no, you're not an alpha.
All right. So how does that designation even serve us then?
I don't have to say I'm an alpha, but if I worked really hard to achieve a goal and I carved out success from when I maybe previously was a loser and a beta and addicted or whatever it might be, and I improved my life to the point that I could maybe consider myself an alpha, cool. I'm going to be proud of that.
And good segue into your final point, that's going to get you laid.
Well, again, this is about setting a man up with the tools that will most likely lead him to success. We want people to be as equipped as possible for success. And when it comes to finding a mate, in particular, sexual attraction, confidence, status, and leadership across all cultures and across ecology, we see the patterns that those things are responded to.
You don't feel that that's turning 4 billion women into this on this planet into a bit of a monolith?
Well, I'm sure that there are women who might disagree, who might genuinely be attracted to different things, but in a numbers game of 4 billion, would you rather become a man who's capable of attracting 3 billion of those 4 billion, or would you rather be a man who can only attract a couple weirdos out of the 4 billion?
A couple weirdos? I mean, don't you think that reducing attraction to alpha versus beta ignores that different women want different things, vastly different things? Like some women are attracted to quiet intellectuals, others to loud athletes. How does this hierarchy account for actual human complexity?
Okay, in the two examples that you just gave, a quiet intellectual and a loud athlete, to me, what that reads as, it could be an alpha in one way and an alpha in another. A loud athlete, he might be dominant at his sport and what he knows. and he's just loud as a consequence. The other quiet intellectual, he might be dominant in whatever he studies or whatever his science is, whatever that is. Those both could be alphas to me. And so to say that women like different things, I really think that you would struggle to find a woman who is attracted to partners who don't have status, who don't have confidence, and who don't have any leadership skills.
So then why do you think so many women explicitly reject the alpha persona as off-putting?
Because people make associations. And in this very politicized world, there are a lot of associations that might be tied to ambitious men in general, but especially like an alpha beta framework, because people are loud about it. You know, alphas calling other people betas, it's like part of the vernacular. And it's just natural that people will distance themselves from it and to dislike anything that is overly confident or braggadocious or associated with conservative politics.
But don't you think if we eliminated the framework and the terminology of alpha, beta, sigma, then those associations would go away? Because you're trying to tie the terminology to positive traits. So if we just had the positive traits, like what woman is going to say, oh, I hate confident, competent men? They're not. They're going to say, I hate the alpha personality, because there's a lot more that comes along with that. It's not just about being confident and competent, isn't it? Like, isn't it more about needing that label, needing that external validation that's associated with that label?
Okay. Well, there's a couple pieces in there. To the first, I would say, I don't care about what the associations are. The value of the alpha beta framework is for men who are trying to come into the world, come into their own. So I don't care how the framework's being interpreted by other people. I feel like that's irrelevant to where it actually makes a positive impact. So getting rid of the framework, just that seems silly. But to your...
Well, wait, hold on. You just said the framework's irrelevant. So why does it seem silly to get rid of it?
The associations are irrelevant.
Okay, why is the framework relevant? Why can't we just strive for competence and confidence rather than being an alpha?
Because I do want people to strive for competence and confidence and leadership and status, but also within the dynamic that there is the inverse, which there is the man who seeks approval, who is overly submissive, who is not decisive. That's part of the framework. It's not just looking at one side of the ideals, but it's also understanding what the reverse of that looks like. Because you'll have a much better idea of where you land if you understand what both sides of a spectrum look like.
Okay. That pretty much covers your points. Any closing statement you would like to say?
Fuck you! It's a biological fact that women respond to leadership and status.
Thanks, Andrew.
It's my best. All right. So we are now switching over. Charlie, you are going to be steel manning the progressive take on whether or not the alpha beta framework is helpful. Let's hear it.
Well, I appreciate that. I think I'll start by saying if you spend your time worried about whether you're an alpha or a beta, congratulations, you've already lost. You've submitted to a framework where your worth is determined by where you rank in someone else's hierarchy. You're letting other people define the metric, score the test, and tell you if you've passed. So the guys constantly talking about being high value or alpha aren't demonstrating strength. They're desperately seeking external validation. Doesn't get too much more pathetic than that. They're basically hierarchy cucks. They're so obsessed with their place in the pecking order that they've handed over their self-worth to be judged by a system that they didn't even choose. So basically go sit in the cuck chair while somebody tells me if I'm alpha enough. I got a few points on the topic. Number one, I just want to talk about how basically what I just said, obsessing over rank is the opposite of confidence.
Okay. Well, then I'll start with that point. Don't all forms of self-improvement involve external standards? Like if you're learning guitar, you would compare yourself to other better players. So how is this different?
It's not different. That's a perfect comparison. So if I want to be elite at playing guitar, I don't go get a list of the top 10 guitarists and try to find somebody who will rank me as being as good or better than them. Yeah, I'm going to listen to their music. I'm going to take inspiration from them. I'm going to be influenced by them. I'm going to collaborate with other players so that I can get better. I'm going to jam with guitarists who are better than me so they can push me to up my game. That's how we truly get better and advance as a society, is through self-improvement. Like, how can I be the best that I can be? We compare ourselves to people only via inspiration and somebody pushing us to be better. But at the end of the day, the ranking doesn't matter. You go ask any great guitarist. I've heard a dozen stories about this. Eric Clapton was asked, how does it feel to be the greatest guitarist in the world? His answer, go ask Prince. Prince was asked, how does it feel to be the greatest guitarist in the world? His answer, I don't know, go ask Jimi Hendrix. These guys aren't going there saying, like, I'm only fulfilled as a human if everybody agrees that I'm number one, or I'm in the top 10, or I'm in the top 100. The ranking doesn't matter. The comparison doesn't matter. Yeah, it's nice to be mentioned in the same sentence as the greats. And so we can use that to drive us, to inspire us. But at the end of the day, it's not about the ranking that matters.
A very good answer. Okay, so another question on that point, though. If real strength comes from internal values, then what's the problem with someone having internal values that are simply, I want to be dominant, I want to be successful?
Well, I guess if that's genuinely your value, but the framework doesn't present it as a valid goal. The framework of alpha, beta, sigma presents it as the measure of a man, or the only goal. And so the problem is the prescriptiveness of it and how exclusionary or exclusive it is. It's not the goals themselves. It's just basically the statement that, like, anybody who doesn't achieve these exact goals in these same ways has less worth. And I just utterly reject that.
Okay. I get that, but I think as a follow-up question, harkening back to your last answer, I think that the alpha beta framework can kind of be compared to your guitar analogy, that it's like there is a correct way to play the guitar, to put your fingers on the frets, to strum. And somebody who's just banging on the guitar or using drumsticks on the neck, saying, don't tell me the one right way to play guitar, are fools. And so do you not think that there are correct ways to do certain things?
I think there are always ways to do certain things. There's more efficient ways. There's ways that have different advantages one way or the other. But, like, just to continue with the guitar analogy, there are people who learn how to play the guitar upside down. There are people who learn how to play it left-handed. Jerry Garcia, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, was missing a finger and a half on one of his hands. Like, there are all these geniuses who learned how to do it different ways, and it's the ability to innovate that made everybody better. It's that tide that raised all the ships. If we just said there's only one way to do it, then, like, it would have been whoever the first few guitarists were that, would we have ever had rock and roll? Would we have ever had psychedelic rock? Would we have ever had disco? Would we have ever had, like, all these crazy riffs and pedals and all this innovation that happened? Yes, it's important to collaborate. It's less important to compete.
Okay.
Artists don't compete with each other; they collaborate, and that's what makes them better.
Okay. So let's move on to another point.
Okay. My feeling on this whole alpha beta thing, these very arbitrary labels that we want to assign to this group of traits. When you were steel manning, the conservative traditional side, you're talking about, well, it's just about all the traits that matter. That's the roadmap. Well, then why are we labeling traits with alpha, beta, sigma? It's basically astrology for insecure men. We're reducing complexity to simplistic categories. You consider yourself a, creative, airy, open-minded person. Well, you must be an Aquarius. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Like we're taking the pseudoscience that really should just be used for fun, and it can be a lot of fun. But why are we like building our whole life around that? Whether it's astrology or whether it's alpha, beta, sigma, it's the same thing. We're just assigning labels to these traits that we find desirable.
Okay. A few things to go through there. So this comparison to astrology, it feels a little bit dismissive because astrology has no scientific basis, but dominance.
Whoa. Don't be taking shots at astrology like that. No scientific basis. I mean, that's strong. I guess I was the one that started it, but like if you want to get laid sometimes, it's important to like astrology.
Okay.
Anyway, do you want to restate that question?
Oh, sure. I feel like the comparison to astrology is a little bit dismissive because astrology has no scientific basis, but dominance hierarchies and status-seeking behaviors are, widely documented things in evolutionary psychology. So aren't you sort of conflating something that is real with something that is fake?
Not really. I see where you're coming from, but the comparison is about how it's used. It's not about the underlying science. It's about taking arbitrary labels and assigning it to traits. So yeah, in the case of, the studies you're referencing about evolutionary biology and how confidence, aggression, and all of those up your status, like that's all fine. But like, why are we taking these arbitrary labels, alpha, beta, sigma, applying it to traits we want, also arbitrarily assigning value to results that we think we want? I mean, that's my other issue with this, is the whole alpha world is like, oh, well, it's about how much money you make. It's about what the cool cars you drive. It's about what your body looks like. It's about how many women you fuck. Like those are the only values that matter, the only metrics that matter. I reject all of that. Like there is so much happiness going on in the world that has nothing to do with any of those things. And how dare these so-called strong men define success in that way? What's more insecure than that? Than saying, the only way to be successful is the very niche way I happen to be successful. Like that's as insecure as it gets. Like success is not a zero-sum game. Why can't men, and I think they can, truly strong, secure, and independent men are not threatened by other men's success or other women's success. They're not threatened by women's status in society growing. They're not threatened by anybody. Like that's the measure of a man, is somebody who just wants everyone to succeed, everyone to have what it takes, everyone to be happy. It's the guitar analogy again. It's the guys, the artists getting together going, holy shit, that's a fucking cool riff. Teach me how you did that. And then you do it, and then you offer them something, and everybody is enlightened, everybody grows. That's true manhood, that's true humanity. We don't need this alpha, beta, sigma bullshit. I guarantee you, if Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and Prince sat down, they're not going to come out of it going, well, Prince was the alpha and Jimmy was the beta and Clapton was the sigma. That's not what's going to happen. They're all going to come out of it going, holy shit, look what I learned from these other two guys. And everyone's better for it.
Okay. I've got one or two follow-up questions within that. I understand what you're saying about the zero-sum game and collaboration, but there are plenty of situations where it is a zero-sum game, where there might be 5 people sitting at a table fighting for one promotion. There might be 100 people auditioning for one part. There are plenty of situations where there is limited improvement and that you have to fight for it. And so in those situations, do you truly see that like an emphasis on confidence and leadership is not useful?
No, I'm never going to say emphasizing positive traits is not useful. But I am going to say that 5 people vying for one promotion is a limiting belief. That's a scarcity mindset. Yeah, should you try your best to get that promotion? Sure. If you don't get it, is that the end of the world? No. There's a lot to be learned from that experience. There's a lot to be learned from the person who did get the promotion. Why did they get it instead of you? Should you be devastated that you lost, or should you learn from that opportunity and therefore become a better person? There are a lot of jobs out there, a lot of opportunities out there. If every person who lost, I guess I'm a beta. If Abraham Lincoln thought he was a beta because he lost his first 4 elections or whatever it was, don't quote me on that. It was a few, okay? It was at least a few. He would have never become the greatest president we've ever had, And was he the greatest president we've ever had because he made more laws or had more money or this or that compared to other presidents? No, it's because of the positive social change he was a part of and how he uplifted other people. And so it's looking at the world with an abundance mindset and saying, hey, there's enough to go around for everyone. And I'm going to improve my own standing by working hard, by learning from others, by uplifting others, not by winning at someone else's expense.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but in my example about 5 people at a table with one promotion, I don't think it's a limiting belief. I think what you're describing is a coping mechanism, which I'm not discrediting. I think in the example where you're one of the 4 people who don't get the promotion, it's not helpful to just endlessly beat yourself up over it, but to say that it's a limiting belief because you can just focus on other things that you can now go chase, that's a coping mechanism. That's not a limiting belief.
Maybe, but irrelevant, because what we're talking about is the importance of the alpha, beta, sigma designation. So if we're applying that framework to your situation, we've got 1 alpha and 4 betas. How does that help us? How does that help the 4 betas to be like, I guess I'm a beta? And how does it help the one person who gets the promotion say, I'm an alpha? And knowing the society that we live in, how often is the person who gets that promotion actually the one who deserves it the most?
That's a whole other can of worm conversation. But to the first part that I would say, if there were 5 people vying for that promotion and they had a month to get ready for it and to work hard, and they're all using an alpha beta framework and they're trying to be the alpha, the one who's going to get that promotion, and then only one of them does and the 4 others don't, those 4 other people will be better for having tried. As opposed to if we took the same 5 people vying for one promotion and all of them instead were exercising your limiting belief coping mechanism on, if I don't get it, it's okay, and a month goes by, one person gets the promotion, who's better off, the 4 who tried or the 4 who said, I'll find something somewhere else?
Why are we assuming that the people who have an abundance mindset aren't trying to get that promotion?
Because they are not recognizing the competition of it as much as the others, and they're missing out on that motivation.
I guess I just reject that. I think all 5 people can want the promotion, can want to have that measure of success without even having the words alpha, beta, or sigma enter their consciousness. Like I don't think if one of the 5, if that's the only thing they're armed with is I'm an alpha, God damn it, and I'm going to get this promotion, and they're grossly underqualified, I don't think that's what's going to put them over the edge. Do you?
Sometimes.
Well, if they also happen to be like the boss's son,
right,
that's
exactly.
where that alpha mentality comes from, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Cool. Good work.
Same to you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that end our time in the ring?
It does. Ding, ding.
Ding, ding.
Okay, so we can drop our whole Steelman facade and just be ourselves.
Okay.
So how did you feel about that?
I am so ambivalent on this topic right now because I guess just simply because I thought both sides were pretty strong, honestly. I felt really good steel manning my side. Like I felt like I was crushing it. Mm-hmm. And I also felt like I kind of struggled attacking your side. Mm-hmm. I don't know. How did you feel?
This is, I totally agree. But this is the tough thing about a steel man, is I think we're trying to represent the two sides in a conversation that we see just like rampant on the internet.
Yeah.
And so as a steel man, we're trying to present it in the best possible form, but sometimes that takes on a form that the conversation never actually does.
That's fair.
I think I was making points as the steel man for alpha beta framework that have never been iterated. You know what I mean? Like
maybe, yeah.
Like no way. So it's tough, you know, because like I don't think alpha beta framework is compelling at all. But I was like doing my darndest to make it seem like a work of art.
I thought you did good with it, honestly. Yeah.
And so is that authentic? That's the tough thing about Steelman is like you want to present it in its strongest form, but what if that strongest form it actually isn't authentic to the position?
That's going to be one of the challenging things of what we're doing here, because are you being authentic to yourself by giving the argument the strongest case that you could possibly give it, or are you taking on the character of the side that you're portraying?
Right.
And we've all had those conversations with characters from both sides all sides of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Far left, far right, moderates, conspiracy theorists, everybody. And the character can be very interesting and very compelling, but also very flawed.
You're right. And the character can sometimes create a straw man out of its position.
They often do.
Right. Very often do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think were the strongest parts of your argument? Both, I guess, true traditional points, and then also the dash spin on the traditional viewpoint.
Well, I mean, it was interesting, like preparing some of these points, because I was definitely like skeptical that I would be able to sell any of it. But as soon as I started getting into it, I was like, okay, there are points to be made. I think a lot of traditional positions make really good points for a small section, but then always fall short of being anything that's like completely comprehensive.
Yeah.
And so like with alpha beta, it's like, it's true. Like it is helpful to, you know, young men who don't know anything and for some reason can't come up with like confidence, leadership, and status being something they can come up with on their own. Yeah. And so when they see the framework, they're like, oh yeah, there we go. Now I understand what my goals are. And so like it could be helpful, but I don't feel like we got quite as deep into the harm that it causes as we could have.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Say more.
Because I think the alpha beta framework creates a ton of harm because it makes some men feel superior and it gives other men good motivation. But then ultimately it just makes a lot of other men feel inferior because like I even made a point that was a little bit self-defeating that like most of the world lives in poverty. And so it's like, what, should all those people feel like shit? So like it does more harm than it does good. It's like being an alpha, let's just say achieving success, the reward is already there. And so to like create a system that just doubles down on the good feelings of that success, but now we're also going to make everyone else feel like shit. It's like, wait, this like if we're talking about just like a sum, or it's just like it's a net negative.
Yeah,
it feels.
I agree with that. Do you feel like the left, the progressive side, is a little too reductive in getting hung up on the words alpha, beta, sigma, all of that? I know it's the conservative side that has, promulgated those words. But if we got so hung up on those words that we're missing the point of like, hey, all we're saying here is we should have goals and we should improve ourselves. And it's okay to be like, hey, I want what that guy has, so I'm going to work my ass off to beat him out. And there is some value in competition. So is the left dismissing that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough though, because like we could take most of like the thought leaders on this subject. Mm-hmm. And while I agree that there is some helpful stuff in this philosophy that the left is dismissive of, when we go and look at the people who are the proponents of it, they also say a lot of other horse shit, you know what I mean, that they sneak in there. So it's like you listen to them because it's like, oh, cool, alpha, beta, that's cool, self-improvement, yada, yada. And then suddenly like you're in like the alt-right pipeline. Yeah. And so part of me is it's like, it's not worth these very, very fucking simple wisdoms if it comes with like toxic ideologies inevitably. And that's why I think the left is dismissive of it, because
the words are triggering.
It tends to come with baggage.
Yeah.
And that's fair. Like I get that. When I'm saying they're dismissive, I'm not saying that's wrong to be dismissive of that. But I think we could do a better job of going, well, yeah, we hear you on this part. And we'll think about that. But the rest is BS.
Yeah.
You know, because if the left never talks about those couple nice truths, well, then these people become the owners, and they have a corner market on those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So that's why it's important to like try and like cherry pick the good out of arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
Lest they become sole proprietors.
Indeed.
Yeah, sorry, that was a tangent. But how did you feel? Were there any points in particular that you thought were weak or strong?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everything I said was awesome and strong because I'm an alpha.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I thought the collaboration argument was really easy to make. You know, like when you kind of brought up the guitar thing, I jumped on that because it's like, yeah,
that's a good one.
These people aren't out here. They're not really competing with each other. Mm-hmm. To them, it's not a zero-sum game. To them, it's like, hey, just because, Pink Floyd sold 5 million albums doesn't mean I can't too. Mm-hmm. In fact, if we're inspiring each other and putting out similar music and like kind of riffing off each other, that's only a positive for everybody. That tide that raises all ships. Mm-hmm. So that argument I think was pretty easy to make. It's kind of like I said, everything in support of, hey, we don't need that terminology, I felt strong about. It was just when I was trying to poke holes in your side that it felt a little more difficult than I thought.
Yeah.
Because like one of your points is hierarchies are natural. And understanding your place helps you improve. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's true. Like, yeah, there are a lot of things that are natural that we don't necessarily want to emulate, and that's kind of how I attacked that point. But I think that's true. Hierarchies are natural. You know, one of your points is like, look, we can try to pretend that that's not reality, mm-hmm. or we can just address it and try to get better and try to improve. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It kind of feels like overall, it really just comes down to the terminology. Because I think everyone kind of is agreeing that there are positive traits out there that, confidence, competence. I think you start talking about aggression and dominance, and you get into a gray area, because then that starts to get into things like colonialism, capitalism, all of that. And obviously there's a huge debate on that. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about competence and confidence specifically, I think if we're looking at the Venn diagram, those are the things in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. The progressives are going to agree that those are positive traits and that they result in positive outcomes across different species and societies and everything. And the Conservatives are going to argue that that's what it means to be an alpha. We're just using different words.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to overcome that argument.
Yeah. I really liked the guitar point. I think we could have a whole conversation about collaboration versus competition. And there's obviously a time and a place for both. The thing I don't like about the alpha beta thing is it's what's the quote about when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
That framework kind of seems to try and apply competition and a scarcity of resources to everything.
Yeah.
When it doesn't need to be. Because imagine if a guitar player actually pursued their music career in like an alpha beta type way. They'd be such a prick that
Totally.
nobody would want to be around them. Oh, you don't even care about the music. You just care about your ranking.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. And so I think that's where my argument, or the traditional take, falls apart a lot, is that sure, there's definitely competition out there. The traditional view loves to hyper-focus on natural things and dog-eat-dog world, and you got to be a monster that can kill and eat, when how much of your life really consists of these wild man, Davy Crockett type shit. You know what I mean? It's 99% of our life is collaboration.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's part of this romantic man masturbation myth about, being a warrior.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does really feel to me more like a projection than it does about reality.
Right.
It feels like a group of people who struggle to collaborate, struggle to be creative, struggle to be diverse, struggle to listen, and actually improve in that way. And then they couch it in these terms of this framework that works for them apparently, but if it doesn't work for you, then you can fuck off. Mm-hmm. And then they use that to define themselves and criticize everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a better word for that. I'm not explaining it very well, but it just doesn't seem real to me. So I think we agree on that. Are there aspects though where it does serve us? It is a zero-sum game. It is a competition and should be viewed as such.
Yeah. I mean, there are examples.
Yeah.
But I just think they are outweighed.
Yeah.
So that's the tricky thing with these arguments, and it's the reason they last forever.
Yeah.
And don't seem to be moving forward, is because there's a little bit of merit. There are some situations, but also really, it's to me though, it feels like it's lasting forever because men keep choosing to just indulge these fantasies of what it is to be a man. And it reeks of insecurity to me. It's just this need that you truly can't stand on your own. You don't have your own sense of equilibrium, your own sense of self. So instead you need to assert your place amongst the others. Because I totally agree with the first point that you made, which was that isn't this the opposite of confidence?
Yeah.
the need to be sorted into some sort of a ranking in relation to other people. Doesn't confidence just say, I don't give a fuck what everyone else thinks?
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. If you're seeking to prove your confidence by being labeled to some group that you don't even control, congratulations, you've already lost.
Right.
Yeah.
And the funny thing that the talking heads of the alpha beta framework will never admit to is that most of the people who subscribe to the alpha beta thing only do it in word. That it's not actually, they're not applying themselves. They're not doing any of the work. It's just the theatrics.
Right. Oh, completely agree.
In the comment section. And really, it's not even about the alpha part. It's more about the beta part, which is ridiculous. When it comes to the framework, shouldn't most of the focus, probably 95% 5% be about the alpha, striving to be better, striving to be dominant, competent, whatever. But instead what we see is there's this crazy overemphasis on the beta because it's just used as the bludgeon to make fun of people and to put people down.
And that's the problem with these types of frameworks is they actually limit self-improvement because they're using this false designation about everybody else and the resulting comparison to justify their own happiness or existence. Like, oh, well, I'm an alpha. If there's enough other betas out there, that makes me an alpha. So if I can label enough other people betas, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I hate how it puts these narrow parameters on what type of self-improvement we're talking about. Like, go to the gym, yeah. Get good at the stock market, yeah. Have emotional immaturity, no. Cuck. Relate to women, be in touch with femininity, beta cuck, soy boy. Like all of those are self-improvement too.
Yeah,
Like getting better at relating to other human beings, that's self-improvement. I hate to break it to you.
Gay.
Gay. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so what are our takeaways from this debate? There has to be something good that we can take from the conservative side.
Right.
I think there's, in this case, probably more that we can take away from the progressive side.
Yeah, probably. I will say, just for the record, what's funny about me doing the traditional take is I probably have thousands of comments on my social media of people calling me a beta cuck soy boy. So, yeah.
And you take it as a compliment?
Just, I can do anything, baby. I go both ways. I genuinely am tickled when I get called a beta cuck soy boy. Because it's, you know the Rick and Morty quote that's kind of become big over the last year, where the audience is booing at Rick and he says, "Your boos mean nothing to me. I've seen what makes you cheer."
Yeah. I don't watch cartoons because I'm not a beta
cuck soy boy.
Yeah.
Right. And so that quote kind of applies here, but for me, it's like gone even further where it's not just your boos mean nothing to me. Your boos are telling me I am on the right track.
Right.
Like genuinely, if you are calling me a beta cuck soy boy, I know I'm doing okay. But the day that people start calling me an alpha, I'm going to be like, wait.
Stop.
Where'd I go wrong?
Yeah.
Why am I appealing to that?
Yeah. Don't you love how like their idea of alpha behavior is apparently like anonymously going on the internet and calling people names?
Totally.
Like what the fuck is up with that?
The irony is not lost on me and so many people.
Yeah.
It's always some faceless profile picture. You go to the profile and that's either like private or just like empty.
Yeah.
Or it's like some like in a truck selfie or whatever. And it's just these ugly fucking nobodies.
Yeah. It's the same mentality of like, I've heard story after story of women on dating apps. They're on Tinder. They match with a guy, they're just swiping, whatever. They match with a guy, maybe exchange a few messages, realize that like he's not for them. And so they're like, you know what, I'm going to pass. And then he's like, well, you're a dumb, ugly slut anyway. It's like,
oh my God.
Wait, you swiped, you're messaging. Clearly you're making an effort, but the minute she's like, oh, it's a pass for me, it's like, well, you're a dumb, ugly slut.
Yep.
And I never would. Like, it's the same mentality.
Uh-huh.
And I guess one of the points that you made in the ring was that it's not about the associations. Like, you can't help what people associate with alpha, beta, sigma terminology. And I guess that's fair. Mm-hmm. But like the fact is, we do have those associations. So it's kind of like, again, you were stating later in our analysis, they matter. Mm-hmm. Like it matters that alpha is a triggering term for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And as I kind of question you on, it is off-putting. So clearly it's not serving us well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. So what we got any good sound bites from this? What can we take away from this?
Let's see. I didn't have any in my notes, but I think that like there is good stuff we can cherry pick from the conservative side, which is the fundamentals of what they're saying. But you need to be able to take that and throw the rest away because it is a giant peacocking parade of dipshits.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that confidence and even status and even resources, like even though like a lot of times people on the left don't like to talk about those things, and it's fair because it gets abused by people on the right.
Yeah.
But like, weirdly, the biology point is strong, which I would not guess the biology point would be as strong as it is.
Yeah.
But like, sexual partners do respond well to confidence, status, and leadership. Like, it's just true.
It is true.
There are a lot. I think the reason why the kind of like the right pipeline and leading into this framework is so powerful is because there are a lot of young men who desperately want partners.
Yeah.
And they get really curious about how to attract people. And this is the only thing that's just like outwardly saying, this is how you do it. Because people on the left are going to be like, everyone's different. Like there is no prescriptive way to attract a partner. So you got to go just do it. But that's not helpful to a young guy who wants to learn how to attract a partner. If this side over here, the snake oil salesman, is saying this is how you do it, they're going to listen to that more than they're going to listen to just be yourself. Everybody's different. Like that's not helpful.
Okay, that's a great point. So if you'll indulge me,
Sure.
how do you attract a partner?
Um,
Because you have a beautiful, successful, intelligent, hyper creative, awesome girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like that's not just a coincidence or luck. I mean, it's always some amount of that. But if it's not by going out there and peacocking and proclaiming your alpha status, because I know for a fact it's not with her, what is it then?
Oh, man. I don't know if I'm prepared to say something because then I'll be like kicking myself tonight. Like, no, that's not the one thing you should have said. But here, I'll just speak off the cuff, just genuinely thinking about like Keely or thinking about, you know, whatever. Just being a very self-sufficient person. And I don't mean self-sufficient as much as like skills and resources, but more like emotionally and mentally. I think that it's just like, it's very appealing and nice to be around people who take care of themselves, who aren't going to lay baggage at your feet, who are just like happy and they just like appreciate you and they admire you. And if you're not interested or if the timing's not right, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going off here. And just like they're satisfied, they're content. I think that's something that, you know, Keely definitely responded to when we were dating at the beginning, is that just like, I really appreciated her, and I'm a high energy person. I give a lot of high energy, but I am also more than happy to, you know, take a hike.
Yeah.
And you know, that's kind of nice.
I love that. I kind of see that as where the abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset comes into play
100%.
in dating.
Yeah.
Women can tell if you are coming at them with a scarcity mindset of like, oh, I have to get with this girl or else like my life is over. Women can tell when men in general feel that way, like, oh, I need a partner so bad, or I need to get laid so bad, or oh, if I don't get a girlfriend, I'm going to explode. Like that comes through, and it's not attractive.
Yeah.
So I think that's point number one. And then I think point number two, and back to your comment about alpha terminology being triggering, is I think by its very nature, this alpha mindset, it commoditizes women. It sees women as a reward for a certain behavior.
100%.
And anytime you're dehumanizing women and treating them as a commodity, they will feel that. Nobody wants to feel that way.
Yeah.
So my answer to the question I asked you would probably be, when I've had success with women, it's been just when I've connected with them most as a human being, when I've asked them questions, when I've taken an interest, when I've genuinely wanted to know who they are, what makes them tick, and whether or not we might be compatible as friends, as lovers, as whatever. That's when things go well. And when things go poorly, it's been objectifying them, treating them as some sort of an accessory or a commodity, or something that elevates my status as an alpha man. Not that I've really ever looked at myself that way, but maybe indirectly so at times. And I think that's the problem.
That's a great point. And honestly, I think that point relates back to the collaboration versus competition thing beautifully. Because if your pursuit of a partner is competition, which means that you're focusing on other men,
Yeah.
not even focusing on women,
Gay.
a little bit homoerotic. But it's just, you're completely ignoring like the main important thing, which is that like relationships at any level are collaborations. And if I feel like somebody is competing for me and oblivious to what my needs and my wants actually are, fuck yourself.
Seriously.
Like, do not come near me. So like if women tried to pursue me in the way that the red pillars are being taught to pursue women, I would carry a high grade taser around with me 24/7 because blech.
Well, the fundamental problem with that is it's not sustainable. What happens when the victory is won and the chase is over? We move on to the next one. And that's a huge problem in dating right now. And guess what? It's always been a huge problem in dating. Like we like to think about how our problems today are so unique and so different. And that's one advantage of being a little older is like I see these patterns repeat and repeat. And it was the same when I was younger, like the thrill of the chase. And I think that's what inevitably happens when we view a partner as a commodity, as a spoil of winning some contest.
Totally.
Yeah. The modern man competes with himself, not with other men. He competes with himself to be the best man he can be. He collaborates with both men and women to form stable, loving, productive relationships. So in order to do that, he must reject stupid frameworks like alpha, beta, not just because they're limiting, but because they're triggering. They commoditize women. That doesn't serve anyone. So
I've got a little bit of a soundbite.
let's hear it.
Let's see if I can stick the landing on it. I think it's really important for men to recognize philosophies and frameworks like this one as training wheels. They are incredibly helpful to somebody who is just beginning and who is just learning. There are some great fundamentals and basics that are in them. But if you are an adult and you are still riding your bike around with training wheels on and you're yelling at everybody and calling all the two-wheel people losers, you've gone too far.
Yeah. I like that.
There are great things to pull from these philosophies. It's not fair to just be completely dismissive. There's a reason why they are attracting millions of people, but they are they are stunting men's development. And so we need to take the good and usher people on to the next, phase of development.
Okay, I love that. So
definitely not a soundbite.
So, well, it's a long one. So in that vein, what do we tell men?
Go on.
So in that vein, what do we tell good men, well-intentioned men, who are deriving identity from this framework, who have been inspired by ideas about what it means to be an alpha man, and they want to be a leader, and they want to be strong, and they want to be assertive. They're not trying to be possessive and insecure, and they're not trying to be dominant for dominance sake. They're not trying to colonize anything or be controlling or possessive or commoditizing towards women. They're truly trying to do the best they can. Maybe this is the only way they were taught. Maybe they were raised this way. Who may be hearing this message and being like, well, what are you talking about? Like, my dad taught me to be an alpha, and I value that. And it's really helped me to up my game and get to the gym and work on my body and maybe get in the library and like read some more books so that I can be an alpha intellectual. What do we tell? What's the message to that man from this episode?
What your dad taught you was great. It was how to push yourself and really just aspire for a higher standard. That's great. But it's also okay to recognize that the overly prescriptive attitude that this framework takes creates a lot of harm. In particular, the part about labeling things as betas. If you want to talk about alphas and being the best, totally fine. I don't think either of us would really disagree and have problems with the alpha aspect of the framework, but it's more about the beta aspect and kind of viewing everything as a competition. And so there's definitely a time and a place for those ideals. That's great, but you need to know when to leave those things at the door because you're going to end up with partners who are overlooked, kids who are neglected, coworkers who are trampled. All sorts of problematic things can happen if you just view everything as competition and ignore opportunities for collaboration.
Okay, I really like that. I'll say it a little different way.
Okay.
The way I'll say it is you're better than that. You don't need that. It's kind of like the training wheels analogy that you just gave. Like, if you are truly concerned about self-improvement, about being the best man you can be, about treating women with respect, about getting to know women and embracing femininity, those are beautiful goals. And that makes you a strong man. You don't need labels. You don't need to label yourself an alpha. You don't need to label anyone else a beta, cuck, soy boy, or any variation of that. That is not manly. That is insecure. So embrace the traits, reject the labels. That's my soundbite for today.
I love it.
Embrace the traits, reject the labels. You're better than that.
Boom. That's
Good?
really good.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so to close this out, there's plenty of stuff that we probably got wrong. Ideas, counterpoints, better questions. So let us know different points that you would have made, different questions you would have asked. We're going to try and incorporate those on future episodes. So get in the comments.
Okay. Well, I didn't necessarily mean to get into this conversation tonight, but I think it's relevant.
Yeah. It's a good sneak peek for our next episode's topic. Tell them what it is.
Okay. Well, for next week, I think we should talk about the male loneliness epidemic. We're going to have two opposing points of view on this. I think the conservative side would say that men are victims of the male loneliness epidemic. And I think the progressive side would say men are causing the male loneliness epidemic. So tune in next week to figure out what is what and which is which. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Fallacies, 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 fallacies.